This is Power and Victory. Exploding in your life through the incomparable teachings of Pastor Tony Smith. Applying the word to real life issues. Through powerful teaching and powerful preaching, get delivered and rise to your next dimension through the life-changing Word of God. Power and Victory, brought to you by Pastor Tony Smith of Baltimore, Maryland.
Hey, I'm Pastor Tony Smith, the pastor of Victorious Ministry, and we're going straight into a 1-hour special called Ask the Pastor. Call a neighbor, call a friend, and say, listen, Victorious Ministry is on, and you do not want to miss this particular program. It's a hot off the press. And get ready, because we're going to church at 8, 11, and 3:30 today, and I want you to come and be blessed by the ministry, Gift of Victorious Ministry. And this week, we're adding a health program inside of this 1-hour edition of Victorious Ministry, and I do not want you to miss what God's got planned today. Call a neighbor, call a friend. We got something special just for you. Let's get into the program.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Inside Victory called Ask the Pastor. We'd first like to extend a thank you for joining us this morning, and I'd like to extend a thank you for our panel on this morning. As you can see, we are joined by a different group this morning, and these are the wives of our host for our show called Man Up. And we'd like to thank you for joining us this morning. To my right is Deaconess Lynn Davis. To my left is Deaconess in Training Charna Jackson. To my right is Evangelist Tarsha Gray. To my left is Deaconess in Training Nicole Smith. And to my immediate right is Missionary in Training Cherie Bevins. And of course, this man needs no introduction, but he is our visionary and our pastor, Pastor Tony Smith. Welcome, everybody, to Inside Victory. Now, this is going to be an open forum, so please feel free to ask Pastor anything that's on your hearts and on your minds, so just be free. Okay. Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So my question, Pastor, is when is it okay to divorce?
When is it okay to divorce? That's a good question that doesn't have any direct answer, to be truthful, because it all depends on how much you can tolerate. Because some people say, I wouldn't go through how he treat me. If you know, your mother say, you leave him how he treat, but the woman might say, see, or the man, because sometimes the woman treats the man like crap,
right,
can say, I understand that what he's doing to me is not fair as a wife or as a husband, but I see that I can win this. Most people divorce when they don't want to win anymore.
That's good.
So, you know, it's when they feel like they can't win anymore. How about this? Most people don't divorce. They just separate. It is separate. So the question to when is it time for the divorce, or when do you think it's, there's really no answer to that. It deals with the individual. I would say when you feel it's too much, and then someone will say, well, then what about God? And right, but then you all it depends on your level and your maturity in God. You know, your faith level with God is only by your experience or your trust in God. And if you can't trust God to heal your marriage, then you're gonna end up. Then you're gonna consider divorce.
Wow. John, I can see you have something on your mind.
I'm waiting for this one.
My question is, we have jobs, and you know, people work 9 to 5 or different schedules, but to women that are strippers, and that might be their full-time job, because they have that job, does that make that a sin? Because that's their job?
I think anything that shames or put a woman in a predicament that they have to exploit themselves is an act of sin. I know you said it's a mean of income, but that's their choice of income.
It's not their force, it's their choice of income. And because people, because you desire wealth, sometimes we don't explore the other opportunities that God has gave us, gifts that God has gave us. A woman always got the body, and you can flirt it to help sick people that can't get their own woman to go and look at other people's women. Because really what we're doing is supporting a sickness that someone has, and we abuse them by looking at porno and because the eye can't, really they say the tongue can't be tamed. Sometimes the eye can't, So the question of that is, it's not their only means of income. And I'm not judging them. I'm not in a position to judge. I just know that God is able to change people and give them a way out. And sometimes we strive to be something that we're not by wealth. But at the end of the day, you got all this money by shaking it, and you can shake it. But at the end of the day, you don't have peace, you don't have happiness, and you don't have joy. And sometimes being broke but can laugh is more powerful than having a lot of money and can't have peace.
Like that.
So what's your question, since you like that?
Well, my question would be, what can a mother do to either eliminate or just minimize the conflicts that they have with their daughter?
Mothers, that's real good. Mothers treat their daughters different than they treat their sons. We cover our sons. We pamper our sons. We justify our sons, and we challenge our daughters because we see ourselves in our daughters.
Wow.
And sometimes our daughters will create an atmosphere that we hate about ourselves.
Wow.
And because we hate that part of them, it's a sign that it's a part of you. When a woman attacks her daughter, she's attacking her past.
Wow.
Because the daughter reflects the image of her past, acting this way for God, doing this way. And it's normally the past of that mother that she don't want nobody to know.
Okay.
So the best way to eliminate warfare with your daughter is establish early communication with her while she's young.
Wow, that's good.
Then she can always talk to you. So you got to be very careful when you have a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 3-year-old, and they say, mommy, 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 mommy. You have to always be available to answer every mommy question. Because when you tell her, go ahead, I don't have time, you always ask your father, do this, stop. You always, that's silly. You're telling her, I'm pulling away from you in communication. Which means you have to reach out somewhere else now. She's no longer asking you questions, and you're seeking for her to ask you questions, and she's no longer asking. So now you're giving an opinion to a question that was never asked.
Wow.
And that becomes war. How about you, Davis?
How do you handle unbalanced sex life in marriage?
Unbalanced sex life in marriage, Viagra.
That's it.
The little blue pill.
Viagra, something to stir up the ability to desire. Marriage is strange.
Good.
Marriage makes people become, things become for granted.
Hey, I'm Pastor Tony Smith. For pause the program just for a minute to give you a little tidbit of Victorious Workout with Elder Jean Fleming. Let's go in to the studio with Elder Jean Fleming.
Hi, this is A Victorious Life, and I'm Elder Jean Fleming. As a certified personal trainer, the question I'm asked the most is, how can I reduce my midsection? Well, today we're going to work on 2 exercises to target your transverse muscle and your oblique. The transverse muscle actually moves your upper and lower abdominals, and the obliques, they actually focus on your love handles. But first, let's talk about the transverse. The exercise we're going to do is a crisscross, and we're going to do a set of 8. Ready? 1, 2, 3, keep your back straight, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Whenever you exercise, always remember to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now the next exercise we're going to do from the chair. And we're going to target the oblique muscles, which, as I said, are your love handles. Keep your feet firmly on the floor, hands behind your head, again, a full set of 8. Let's start with the left side. Ready? 1, 2, 3, keep your back straight, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Very good. Now remember, it's important that you watch your diet, stay away from those carbs, and eat high protein foods. Well, that's all we have time for now. This is Elder Jean Fleming for Victorious Life. And remember, make a healthy choice for a healthier you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Get ready, Baltimore. Come Saturday, December 31st, and witness 2 power-packed services with Pastor Tony Smith and Victorious Ministry. Dance your way into 2012 with joy and declare victory for the new year. See you at the amphitheater.
Suppose you flip it on the other side, though. It's the male who's more active than the female.
Well, it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing. The woman is a little different than the male. The male needs help to maintain his energy to please the woman as time go on. The woman just needs to be available for the man, quote and unquote. just okay. You know, I gotta be to work by 4. You know, but I would encourage you never to reject your husband. Tell him your circumstances, but never reject him. Because when you reject him, you teach his mind to explore. That's when they start going to porno. That's when they start looking at tapes and they start viewing stuff that makes them think that they're legal because they're not touching another woman. And God has designed us, especially, God has designed us in such a way that when one spot don't work, you can use another thing. I'm just trying to be... you understand what I'm saying? Because, but never reject your husband. Explain to him. You know, women say, well, I just can't do it when I'm upset. Then you need to close your eyes and think pleasant things. Because you're becoming too secure in this relationship that you think you don't have to invest.
That's good. That's real good.
Never reject your husband without explaining to him why it's necessary. Now, physical challenges, you know, you really stress because, you know, your puppy died or something like that, you know, somebody deaf. He can understand it. But he will understand, and because he has a desire for intimacy, and he knows why you're that way, he's going to fix what worries you because he wants the intimacy. But when you just straight up like turn into the side of the bed and he's like, we ain't had sex in 6 weeks, you need to go grab that lassie and tell that puppy to sit. Because I'm very serious, because most church people lose their man because they're not active enough in marriage physically. And y'all need to romance. The man needs to romance the woman, but the woman needs to romance. You know, if he call you and tell me, hey, this is Juicy, you be like, I'm at work. No, you like, Juicy, I'm at work. You know, you got to throw some stuff at it. You got to text him. I'm just trying to be nice because I could call your nickname out. And you don't even play with me. But you gotta romance this man. And this man must romance you for the 5 minutes of intercourse at night. You got to walk past him and hit him on his butt. You know, you got to grab it. It's yours. You got to grab your private part all day long just to let him know I want something tonight. And he'd be like, well, I just can't do it because the bills ain't paid. You say, close your eyes, they get paid. Because I want to make love. I need love. You don't sit on the side of the bed and fuss at a man about making love and think he's going to produce after that argument.
That's not going to happen.
Matter of fact, when you want to make love, y'all want the intimacy with your husband, let me tell you what you do. You say, Friday is sex day. There's no arguing on Friday because we're going to have some sex. Saturday, we'll catch up. We lost on Friday. But we having sex Friday. And there's going to be no arguing because arguing makes moods, and moods change atmospheres.
That's good.
All right, so I have a real basic question.
Oh, Jesus, I should ask somebody else. I'm going to go to Tasha. Tasha.
So all of us pretty much have kids, and, you know, they want to do things like get tattoos, get piercings, whatever. How should we tell them, or what basically can we tell them why they shouldn't do that, why they shouldn't get tattoos, or even the ones that you can't, because I've heard kids say, well, you can't see it. So.
When it comes to a child, the Bible says train a child. Some things dealing with children, you have to create laws for your house. It doesn't change what they do when they leave your house permanently. You know, my mother didn't allow us to do tattoos in the house. So we weren't going to bring nothing if we were going to stay there and we had no rent to go nowhere else.
That's right.
But when they get to an age where they can make decisions like that, you need to sit down with them and explain to them that this present decision can affect your future.
Right.
So when you so you won't have to walk around and explain why you got a tattoo on the side of your face to go down to your neck, and explain to them that you had a moment with Shaka Kula or something, you know, and you wanted to be, you was in a movement at that time. So you won't lose out in your career, lose out in relationships, being stereotyped, all these things. You need to explain to your child. That's why we don't allow you to mark yourself, because we, at the age of 17, you don't know your future in the next 20 years. See what I'm saying? And it doesn't mean that you will lose your future. It just means that you'll go the rest of your life explaining your past to your future.
Wow.
A tattoo states a time in life. It means that you're saying, when I mark myself, I'm willing to explain to people that time in my life.
Wow. So you made yourself an open book.
Yep.
Well, okay, so what do you do in reference to tattoos? Like, for some of us, we got them before we got saved. And your children are looking at you like, well, you got tattoos.
And you need to explain to them that that was the experience before my time in life of realizing, when I became mature and realized that these things were not necessary or not important to me at where I'm at right now. And some of y'all need to say, okay, look at me. You don't want to look like this with a tattoo. You know, I'm very serious. Or some of y'all, or you explain to them, my goal and my job, my charge in life towards you is to make sure you make very few mistakes. That's why I say no tattoo now. Because all they want to do is state a time in their life. They do stuff like put a boy's name, you know. If you're out there partying, you'll put a tattoo to represent a year or a time in life where, you know, you're smoking blunts, or, you know, you got people walking around for a reefer tattoo on them. That's a time in their life. Okay, now they in a place in life where they're around people that, or their business doesn't qualify that, doesn't they can't do that, and they gotta hide it, tape, bandage, everything. You don't never want to mark something on you you have to hide. Tasha?
Alrighty. The tattoo thing was good.
That means I ran out of questions.
No. I have one. What do you tell somebody who says that I have a connection with God, I have a relationship with God, why do I need to go to church? How do you answer that person?
Well, when people say stuff like that, they're saying, I don't want to be disciplined. I don't want to be corrected. I don't want to be challenged. So what I do is create my own image of God because I'm the law and the dictator of what I'm going to receive. Mm-hmm. But if I come to church, this man might preach what I'm living and tell me it's wrong. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go through that because church does not only build you spiritually, it disciplines you. Mm-hmm. It creates a type of discipline. Mm-hmm. And discipline is built by correction. Discipline is built by conviction. So most people don't like conviction because conviction builds discipline because you have to pull away when you have conviction and create a discipline not to go back. So most people do that because they hate, they struggle, they have their struggle with the mentality of having a person, a man that has the same things that they have, body structure they have, directing them to tell them what's right or wrong. Mm-hmm. So they say stuff like that. They don't want to submit under authority. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty simple.
Anybody over here?
Say, for example, if you have a husband and wife that go to the same church, but one of the individuals, they don't feel like they're being fed, and they feel like they want to leave the church, and the other spouse doesn't want to leave, do you have to actually serve in the same ministry if you're not being fed?
Well, the fed part is a joke. Mm-hmm. It's really a joke. Okay. Because not only did the man of God preaches, there's too many connections in church that deals with fellowship that feeds you. Mm-hmm. Married couples, youth ministry, relationships with people. So people use that word fed because they're not being used or they have other agendas. And how about this? My mother, when my mother was feeding us, she couldn't feed herself. If she had me in her lap and had my brother Rob on her lap and she was feeding us from the table, she couldn't feed herself. Sometimes when you feel you're not being fed, it's your season to feed somebody else.
Wow.
And especially if you're a leader in the church. When leaders lead the church, it's because they want power. They don't want to serve.
Wow.
So they say, I'm not being fed. I just feel like my gift is not being used. Well, it's the problem you having is, well, when it deals with couples, it's really sensitive because the man or the woman wants to lead the church because of what's being taught is against how they're living. Mm-hmm. So they want to lead the church because they know that the woman of God or the man of God is ministering something against the way they're living or treating their spouse. So if I can pull her away from this, then she will not investigate and find out that I am portraying a lifestyle that's not pleasing to God.
But a lot of churches don't have a lot of the ministries and things that we have. We have a lot going on here, and a lot of churches don't have that. And they cater to certain age groups in certain churches. Mm-hmm. So you can get into a church and actually become stuck.
Yeah,
and you come and visit, you go to one church, you come and visit another church where the ministry is very active, there's a lot going on, and you have all of that. But the one that you're in, they just don't have that.
Churches are like schools. And you got to go where you can be. This doesn't mean that you're not being taught. Okay. You got to go where you can learn. Okay. Because it does not mean the person ain't teaching anything. Mm-hmm. It just means that you can't grasp it. You can't hold it. You can't get it. Mm-hmm. So when you get that and you're married, the man must make a family decision, even if he's starving. Mm-hmm. Okay. He must always cover his family. Mm-hmm. So the man might say, I'm not getting anything out of this church, but the wife is saying, I'm surviving. I'm living through this church. And he has to make a family decision, not a personal one, because he's your covering. Most men make a personal one, and the woman dies.
Wow.
And the child scatters because he's mad at the deacon or the trustee. He's got to say, I'm staying here because you can come to church Get the information from the man of God. Get the worship, get the praise, and take your family and go home and reteach it, and don't have to get stuck in personal relationships in church.
Right. Okay.
See what I'm saying? So I hope that can answer your question a little bit.
Yes.
And what about?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So we talked about. So what would you tell a person? What should they look for when they're looking to join a church? Because some people church hop. They don't know. Okay, how do they? What things should they look for to say, okay, is this for me? Am I right for this ministry?
You need to go to a church where you can be obedient, not just serve. Most people go to church where they can be used. And sometime in life, you're not called to be used, you're called to be taught. And you can't be used and be taught at the same time. So we struggle with that. You leave the church because you're not being used. It's not a good reason to leave the church. Because everybody's not called to stand on the pulpit and preach, but everybody's called to preach. To say the good news, the gospel. So most of us want the title to keep us in, instead of looking to be obedient. So you got to go to a church to be obedient. And the only way you can become obedient, you have to become broken. Because we're coming to a church mature that we think just wanting a little bit of information. We don't think that we need to be totally transformed. By what? That's the key.
That's it.
The warfare is not your worship. The warfare is not your situation. Your warfare is your mind. And most people will judge a preacher, judge a church because of the way they think. And you got to understand that if you was working, if what you was thinking was all that good, you wouldn't left that other church. You got to find somewhere where you can take punches to be molded.
That's good.
Let me hear your question. You had another question.
They say that you're not supposed to seek counsel from people that's not married. That's what people say. So we seek counsel here, and people's not married. So is it good? It all depends on the person that you're getting information from.
Well, there are people in our church that's not married, that are elders and pastors that are trained by the Word of God to counsel you in marriage. Only through the Word of God, not by experience. Some things come by the letter of the Word, and some things come by the Spirit of the Word. So but when you seek counsel from people that are not married, that giving you opinion about your husband, they're only giving you their opinion, and most of the time their opinion is going to support your thought, because they have a relationship with you and not with your marriage. So they're like, if you went to, let's give you an example. If you went and said, my husband he don't give my son no attention. He don't give my children no attention. It's just rough. I don't understand. That person gonna always say you right and he need to do it. And I think you just need to talk to him and maybe you need to go to Pat, because they are warped. Their mind is twisted in that area because they only know your view. See, when we do in the counseling, if a single person counsels you, if one of the pastors is single and they counsel you, they might hear your view, but they only go to the Word for the answer. You see what I'm saying? So be careful if you're taking counsel from somebody that doesn't go to the Word.
That's good.
Because they're only going from their experience. And if they have no listen, if they don't have any married experience, then they're only going by their dating experience. And dating is totally different than marriage. Well, I've been dating him for 16 years. We've been perfect. Wait till you marry that clown. Life will turn upside down after that. Hey, let's stop for a moment and take a break. And let everybody know what Victorious Ministry is doing today. Is that all right with everybody?
Good.
God bless you. Amen.
Good.
Victorious Bible School second semester begins January 7th, 2012 at 9 a.m. with Power Pack classes to further your knowledge and understanding of the Word of God. See Pastor Gloria Davis to register today. Call 410-433-8066. Be a part of Victorious Bible School.
Do you have 1 hour out of your day to spare? Now is the time to praise, worship, and experience God with an hour of power. Join us every Wednesday at 12 noon at the Victorious Ministries Amphitheater, 4617 York Road. All are welcomed. We'd love to see you there. Hello and welcome back to this very special edition of Inside Victory. We again would like to thank you for joining us this morning, and also we'd like to thank Pastor Tony Smith and Victorious Ministries for sponsoring Inside Victory, and we'd like to get back to the questions. Pastor, I wanted to ask you something in regards to something that may be very sensitive to couples when they may not be able to conceive for whatever reason, whether she has a health reason, he may have a health reason, so that doesn't break their situation apart, or maybe someone may be going into a state of depression as a result of it, because a woman may not feel like a woman if she can't produce a seed for her husband. What would you say to that couple who may be struggling in that area?
That's reality. That sometimes the situations in your life or things that you've done in your past or happened in your past have affected your body and your future. But God has, there's so many, what you want, when you say you want to have a baby, I know you say, well, I want our own. But what you're saying is, I want to share love. Mm-hmm. I want to be responsible of developing someone to have a life and a future. Mm-hmm. And God has made it so many ways to adopt, so many avenues to do it. And if you would not have a closed door to those things, you might find out that you will birth or create or have an opportunity to bless someone, but also be blessed by it. Mm-hmm. And you pass the 9 months of carrying you, no charge. But for someone, but in this ministry, I've seen doctors give reports to women that said, because of your body changes or things that happened in your past, you cannot have children. Mm-hmm. And I've seen God in services declare pregnancy and declare that they'll have a child, and it happens. Yeah. I've seen it. So I would tell that person to go to seek, to see, I would tell them to not give up. Don't lose heart. Don't close doors on other opportunities, but expect a miracle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Expect a miracle, because you got love. You have love to give. Mm-hmm. You know, I've seen it. I've seen people with major situations and all of a sudden come down to the altar weeping and crying because they're pregnant. Mm-hmm. I pointed out people say, you're going to get pregnant. And then they say, no, not me. Keep your finger away from me. And then there it is, you know. I've seen, you know, situations like that. So I'm not narrow-minded in the area of what the doctor report is. Mm-hmm. I have great faith, but I believe that what you're saying is I got a lot of love, and I want to have something that me and my husband can love back. Mm-hmm. And there's so many kids in this world that just want two people to love them back. Mm-hmm. And you really can get them to look just like you too. So there's so many opportunities. I would encourage you to seek other areas of that you can share your love, but not give up hope. Mm-hmm. Not give up hope. You marry people because you love them. Mm-hmm. You marry people because you want to live your rest of your life with them. Mm-hmm. And it should not change because someone cannot produce a child. Mm-hmm. It should not change. It means that when that child get old or that child reach the place where they no longer need their mother and father consistently, your marriage can fail. Mm-hmm. Wow. Because you're saying, that's all I want is a baby. Yeah, I understand, but there's so much, you know, you can't love someone and reject them because they can't produce children. Mm-hmm. That's unfair. That's narrow-minded. Mm-hmm. I know it's your passion to have a baby and everything, but it's not fair to reject that woman or that man because he cannot produce a child. Mm-hmm. Because I just think that, you know, I believe that if God see you love what you don't have, He'll give you what you don't have.
That's excellent.
You had a question.
How do you balance when the husband and the wife are in ministry, busy full time, you have children, so that your household isn't in disarray?
You teach the ministry to respect what you have to do at home.
That's good.
The ministry will keep taking because you keep giving. But if you tell the ministry, I need to take care of my home and my family, the ministry is built off the family. It will understand. The ministry will only respect what you respect. You have to teach it. But see, what it is that the ministry gives most people what their passion. And because it's their passion, most people don't want to let go their passion. But when you have children and have a family, there's got to be a time where you say, this is about my family. And it's not about me or you. It's about my family. And I'm going to go to my priest and let him know I need to have time with my family. Because you'll wake up one morning and have an incredible ministry and lose your family.
Right.
So you have to teach the ministry to respect your family.
Good.
That's excellent.
Okay, go ahead.
What about, we have women that are housewives or they stay home and take care of the kids and the husband works. When does the wife get off? How do you get an opportunity to have, you know, you punch a 9 to 5 clock, but then when you come home, the wife doesn't get that. How can you get a wife or a husband to understand that?
That's a good question. First, you must throw away all these traditions and standards that these women and people say, you're the wife and you got to clean up the house, scrub the floor, and you got to y'all can't go into marriage like that. You got to go into marriage saying, because the society is not where we came from. Daddy went to work and mommy stayed home and that was it. Society is daddy going to work, mommy going to work, and bacon still need to be cooked and eggs and everything. And y'all need to sit down as husbands and wives and start doing together what you don't like to do by yourself. And clean, you know, and find out what he does. I see men talking about, she don't like to clean. Every time I come home, the house is a mess. I'll be like, but you don't want to like to clean. Clean it. I work hard, but you like cleaning the house. Clean the house. Let her do it. Now, when I was coming up, my mother worked and my father worked. But they were off on Saturday. So Saturday was not going to play baseball, not going out to the mall, not you know what Saturday was? Clean up the house. And if we had something to do, we got up earlier. So we were up 6 o'clock in the morning cleaning up the house because we wanted to play baseball by 9.
Right.
That's how you do it. And you maintain the family stuff. And that way they get to learn each other and know each other and respect each other and everybody participate. And that's where you begin to lean on each other and care for each other. But the way y'all, you know, I'm tired of coming to a dirty house. Clean the house. She don't cook. Then you bring some food home. Help her. Teach her. You know, work with her. Work with him. You know, I mean, me personally, I hate cleaning. Since I learned to hate it, I learned to deal with it. You get no argument from me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So if I had a woman and she didn't like to clean, we'd just be right up in there together. But if she does like to clean, then all you got to do is say, listen, we too busy. We're real busy. But twice a month, we have to clean this house from top to bottom.
That's good. I like that.
I like that too.
So we're going to shut down
Hey, set you free.
from this time to this time, and everybody's going to clean that house twice a month. When you get tired of cleaning it, you'll keep it clean. See, when you're single, you can do that. You can step over the chair, you can step over the clothes, the jeans, and everything. But when you're married, and you got children, you want to make sure they see the right thing. You have to build organization. teamwork makes the dream work.
Right.
So you have to do it that way and go from there.
Pastor, what would you say to parents who try to overcompensate with their children? They may not spend as much time with them as they would like, and they try to overcompensate with material gifts, and as a result of that, children develop a sense of entitlement, and they just gimme, 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 and they just expect more and more from that parent.
Your child only becomes what you create them to be. Whatever your child is today, that's something you've done to create that. The world didn't do it yet.
That's right.
Especially if they haven't left your house yet. The world haven't done it yet. Now, of course, they're some 16, 17. But they really are acting out what they saw or you taught them how to do. You just didn't know they were going to take it to a 10th dimension.
Right. Right.
So I would say, number one is admit to yourself that you were wrong. Then go to them and tell them there's a new sheriff in town, and mommy and done some wrong things that I'm going to correcting you. And for the season, I cannot be your friend. I have to be your discipliner and begin to discipline you and start taking things away from you, because in the real world, you get nothing for free.
Wow. That's a word. That's
And
a word.
I'd rather for them to cry in the bedroom than cry in prison.
Right. Right.
See what I'm saying? So I know it's hard because you justify it by saying, you know, you got a bad child all week, but you feel bad because you've been working all week, and you take them out to get a PlayStation. They come home, the room's still dirty, everything just messed up, because you feel guilty. You can't, number one, as parents, you can't live guilty.
That's good.
Right.
You got to get, guilty should not be in a parent's vocabulary. Guilty should not be in a parent. Feeling guilty, embarrassed should not be in a parent's vocabulary, because you're always responsible to lead. And you have to learn to lead taking hits. Even if you're wrong in what you lead, you still teach that child something.
Wow.
There's a lot of things that, you know, growing up, I was raised by my mother and my father. You know, my mother and father didn't separate until I was grown. So I was raised by my mother, but I saw things in my parents that I said to myself, I will never become, I'll never do. And because I saw that, it was an example to me, even if it was positive or negative. So don't never be embarrassed that you made a mistake in front of your child, long as they can see that that was a mistake or it was wrong. You got to lead. You have to lead as parents. You don't, and sometimes as leaders, watch this, y'all, you can't negotiate.
Right.
You never have to negotiate with someone that has no power anyway.
That's the ticket.
Yeah.
And we got children 12, 13 years old, want to go out to parties and go out, and we think, or want to buy stuff that they don't have no money for, and you don't want to do it. There's no negotiation. You don't negotiate. I did my room. Oh, you're going to do mine now? Why? Because in the real world, you can't, if you develop a child like that, you watch this. If you raise your child like that, you'll wake up one morning and realize your child 18, 19 years old and never had a job.
Yep.
Because they don't need to go after something they don't desire to keep.
Yeah. We got everything at home.
That answers your question?
I got one now.
Yeah.
What do you do for the parent that raises a child by themselves or with the spouse? Either way, they're raising in the Christian way, but you have every other weekend they go on a visit with the other parent, and every time that child comes back home,
You got to detox them.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So how do you handle that? Because now you're looked at as the bad one,
Right.
when this is the weekend of fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's a real good question. We have to believe that God will be faithful to your desire for the best for your child. That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to stay consistent in your standard, because when a child is in real trouble, he doesn't want fun. And he'll remind himself of the standard my mother has and the silliness my father has.
That's good.
See, your standard is not, or your structure at your home is set aside to teach them something. They won't know they're being taught until they get into some trouble. Or they get into obstacles. Where the father or the mother, weekend person, standard is to make sure they love them because they're not around enough. As they grow up, they will appreciate their father giving them all those things, but most of their stories will be about their mother. So my word is you hold your standard because you're there to train a child, not play with them.
That's good.
And it's hard because you start, and don't weigh your standard against what the weekend father or mother does. You tell them right away, when you with your mother or your father, that's what they allow. But when you hear, this is what I allow, and I do allow this without a smile. You don't have to smile at me. You must obey it. Because in the real world, you're going to have to weigh what your father offered you or your mother offered you on the weekend and what I'm teaching you every day.
Jesus.
See, it's not about now. See, one of our biggest problems is when our child was 6 and 7, 8 years old, we let them get away with it because the mother and father wasn't in the house, different things wasn't in the house, and we let them get away with that stuff. We felt bad. We bought them stuff that we shouldn't have bought them and all that kind of stuff. And then we woke up and realized, wait a minute. This guy's 18, my child's now 17, 18 years old. And what I should have said no to, he's demanding me to give him now. You know, if you got a father that let the little girl do everything and you whoop her tail for the boy sitting on the steps, you keep that standard. So when she mess up once and thinks she might be pregnant, she gonna remember your standard and say, God, if you make sure that I'm not pregnant, I'm gonna remember what Mama said, because Daddy let me stay out all night long. Make sense? Even us. There's a lot of rules and regulations that our guardian or parents gave us that we hated, that we live today by.
Yes, that's very true.
Because of standards. And leaders must lead without judging who doesn't appreciate how they lead. Okay, we can't get quiet on the TV.
Suppose you know that your child is sexually active, okay? And what do you say about that parent that decides, well, I know the child is sexually active, there's nothing I can really do about it, but I want to do, how do you feel, what do you think about birth control when you know that child is doing something and you can't control it?
Well, I have to make a stand as a man of God, and even though you know she's having sex, you have to have a standard.
Okay.
I know you're saying, oh, Lord, I don't want to have no babies, I ain't want no grandparent, but you're telling her,
It's okay.
I'm approving it with protection. And I'm lowering my standards. Then the next thing you know, she's saying, Mom, 17 years old, and Rocky, you know the boy Rocky I go with? His mother just put him out, and he's going to stay here until he find a place to stay. Then next thing you know, Rocky in there talking about, how you doing, Mom? And he's frying eggs and bacons in your house. And because you have gave her the legal right to have sex, even though you can't stop anybody from having sex if they're out of your reach.
Right.
But in your house, you got to maintain standards.
That's right.
You have to make standards. You have to maintain standards. Because you're training them. It is better to tell her, I told you so, than for her to tell you, you let me.
That's good.
Yes. That's good.
Pastor, what would you say to those people who, this is a time of year when different things are going on, the hustle and bustle of, presents and gifts and the commercialism and whatnot, but you may have someone who may be dealing with a loss, so it's the first holiday without grandma or whomever. How do they get through this without feeling like they're falling apart? Or
Well, emotion is when you go through emotions, you're gonna go through the body. It's strange about the body. The body is not built to hold emotion. So it has nervousness, your bowel movement, you cry, you desire not to eat, because the body, for some reason, is not built. Even though it senses emotion, it develops emotion, it's not built to hold it. So you got to release it. My word to them is, one thing I found out about emotion, when you're emotional, it cannot maintain itself around a company. So if you're sad and depressed and you read around 18 people, that the crowd changes your mood, even though it doesn't change the situation.
Okay.
And it doesn't, listen, and it also doesn't destroy the emotion, it just delays it. And I would say, fill your time with people. Silence is not always, loneliness and silence is not always healthy.
Right.
You need loneliness and you need silence when you're seeking something. You do not need loneliness and silence when you're depressed. You need something to fulfill you, come into your life to give you views of other things instead of the things that you're talking about. When I find myself walking into depression or looking at some depression, I seek people that will not cater to that depression. So now I want somebody to make me laugh. I want somebody that's just straight up silly, and they might not even say Jesus, but they're going to take me out of that thought. You know, sometimes pastors, when pastors get together, and we go through a season or a time where we're going through. Pastors don't have time to go through seasons. People don't let pastors go through seasons. I can't come here every Sunday depressed. Like, all right, you better get it together, man. So, but when we go through a moment that we going through, we don't want to hear scripture. I know they say, "Oh, Jesus," no. We want to hear laughter.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We want to, and sometimes you got to know where you are. You got to say, when you call somebody and you're going through, but never make someone stay in your place of depression. So if you call me and say, "But Pastor, I don't want to hear a word," and I say, then you don't need to call me. I'm developed. I'm built for preaching. I'm built for teaching. I'm built for correcting. You don't need to call. You need to call somebody over here that can crack a joke and let you whine. So you need to know what people are in your life. And if you want to stay depressed, you go to the depressed carrier. But when you're ready to get free, you need to go to someone that can snap you out of that depression.
Right.
So,
Love you enough not to let you stay.
I have a question. I'm finding that homosexuality is starting so young now. For the little girls, not even the little boys, the little girls. What do you think is the main reason that might cause these little girls? I'm talking about 5th graders.
Identity. It's becoming a popular fashion to be homosexual. To most of these young girls are playing with penises and playing with vaginas. You know, it's becoming a fashion. Most of them are at the age where they're not being satisfied. And it also, to a woman, homosexuality is an act of power. They dominate a woman. Got you now. If you ever, I won't get into that, but it becomes, they respond to the other girl with power. And if you notice, most of this homosexuality stuff with young people are not sexual. It's role play. You know, they dress and they talk like they dominating you. The identity, it creates that identity. And then you find out that, you know, and I'm telling you what's going to happen. The Spirit of the Lord is going to, that thing is going to be snapped off of them. And overnight, they're going to become too sexual. They become more over, you know, then you have to put their vagina in check. Hold up. Too many boys walking up in this house. You know what I'm saying? So, but the homosexual, it's like a power thing, because as a young child, boys are dominant. They're the ones aggressive. So that's why they want to play ball. Girls want to play. And nothing wrong with girls playing ball. And nothing wrong with all these things. But that act of power comes in. Most of them girls, 11, 12 years old, they just playing with it. They're not being fulfilled by it. But anything you practice long enough, you'll become.
But should the adults accept it? It's like it's acceptable.
Well, you got to understand at that age of their lives, they're trainable. So you can't accept what you don't allow, what you won't allow. So that's where you say, oh, I need to mold you and train you in that area. I need to work on you. I need to minister to you. I need to teach you. I need to train up you to understand that you're fearfully and wonderfully made and you're a woman. And you do not have to walk around hard. See, this hard image, I mean, even in the church, even the church today, even me, you know, hard is like power. You know, I walk hard. And I don't have to. I'm the pastor. But sometimes I feel like I fill in my hopes. I'll be like, yo, I wish somebody else come up here. Hey, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us and be glad. But it's a power thing. And we are portrayed hard as homosexual to a girl. You see what I'm saying? To the little girls. They think hard is an act of homosexual. And you'll kiss somebody and say, you better watch her. She's getting gay. And then 20 years from now, she got 8 kids. And the one you didn't watch, she got mustache, sideburns, and strapped it down. And it's funny, God must got a crazy sense of humor. I just know I'll be looking at some of these girls, they be, you know, I know, don't send me no letters. I ain't scared of none of that. But it's funny, I'll be going to the mall, they be trying to be hard and act like, dressed like a boy. And God be like, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to make those breasts so big that you have to be fat. You have to be a fat boy. And they strap them breasts down and they look like, and they put them boy shirts on and they look like a fat boy. God, you got a sense of humor, I'm telling you. I just love it. So I think that it's a spiritual warfare. It is spiritual warfare because they're faking something that they're not. Most of the little girls that age, most of them have not entered into any type of intercourse. You know, really. And if you won't watch them, they'll play with penises before they play with vaginas. But they'll act like boys. You know, when we were coming up, we called it tomboy. But really, we weren't tomboys. We just wanted to play boy sports. Because we still wanted to be cute. We were better. Yeah, we let y'all not going to roll on me today. Not this early in the morning. And I got to preach 3 services. No, you're not rolling on me today. Because I will get you from the pulpit. Oh, Lord, don't get sorry. But we really got to pray, though. We really got to pray. We don't have much time. Time is running out. We had so much fun. We must do this again. We want to thank our listening audience again. God bless you.
God bless you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the program. We pray that it will be a blessing to you. Come and join us today, 8, 11, and 3:30 services at Victorious Ministry. God bless you, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Have you visited Victorious Ministries International's bookstore? Well, if not, come on in. You'll find items such as Bibles, books, journals, DVDs, CDs, and so much more. What are you waiting for? Come on in. Call 410-433-8066 or visit our website, PastorTonySmith.com, for great deals and packages.